Among those looking at the impact of this midterm election are church leaders. Dennis Poust is the director of communications for the New York State Catholic Conference. They represent the bishops of the Empire State in working with government to shape laws and to shape policies. Mr. Poust joins us now to talk the bigger picture. Dennis, thank you so much for being with us.
It's always a pleasure, Liz.
Dennis, we've discussed the outcome of last night's elections throughout our program tonight at length. One very important question for you, though, put it into context for us. How does the outcome of these historic elections ultimately affect Catholics at large?
Well, Catholics are part of the greater country, but let's try and narrow down to some of the things that Catholics are interested in. And first and foremost, our bishops always tell us the right to life and from conception to natural death is always a critical issue. In New York, the news is bad in that regard, in that with the Democratic takeover of the state Senate to give the Democratic Party a complete control in Albany, that means that the Reproductive Health Act, which is an abortion expansion proposal, will no doubt pass very early in 2019. That's bad news for Catholics. On the positive side of the Democrats controlling the Senate, we'll see more things that may be favorable toward immigrants, like the New York State DREAM Act, or one bill we've been fighting for decades, the Farm Workers Fair Labor Protection Act, which is for migrant farm workers to give them the justice that they deserve and just fair treatment that they're exempt from under the labor law. So it's a mixed bag. It always is.
Dennis, I want to get to an issue that has been the topic of much debate. You have said that the New York State Catholic Conference welcomes discussions about some type of provision that would allow child sex abuse victims who under current state law cannot seek justice to be able to do so. So with the congressional shift in the balance of power, what would that conversation now sound like?
Well, with the shift in Albany, with the Democrats controlling the Senate, that makes the likely passage of the Child Victims Act much more of a reality. The Child Victims Act would create a window where people who were abused decades ago, even the 40s or 50s, could bring new lawsuits. The good news is our bishops have taken an initiative, including in Brooklyn, but in every state, in every diocese in the state, they've already begun to do that themselves, right? With the Independent Reconciliation and Compensation Program that I know you've reported on, where victims who are time barred can come in and they are getting compensation, and it's real dollars that they're getting, and they've been very happy with that program. So we'll see if that passes, what the result will be for the church, but we are urging all legislators to make sure it applies to all survivors. Right now, the bill that's being sponsored by Democrats cuts out public schools. Public school victims would not be treated the same way. They wouldn't have the same access to the courts. We can't support something that would treat victims differently, survivors differently. So we say, if they do a bill, we want it to include public institutions as well.
And how will our new Attorney General, Letitia James, help in this respect?
Well, as you know, the current outgoing Attorney General, Barbara Underwood, has initiated an civil investigation of the 8 dioceses of New York State with regard to child sex abuse, has subpoenaed records regarding dealing with sex abuse. That the dioceses now are hard at work cooperating with that investigation. I believe that Tish James will continue that investigation. I have no reason to believe otherwise. We know that there's bad stuff in the past, decades in the past. We know that things weren't always done right. In fact, many times they were done horribly wrong. And there is a reckoning coming and an accounting for that. And I think the bishops are prepared for that, because only with that transparency can we move forward as a church.
Dennis Poust, thank you so much for that information. Very useful and very insightful. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Liz.